And upstairs, high above PIR, calling the action, Dave Reef and Steve Evans.
Thank you, Bob. Gerald Evans here. You know, folks, in the 21 years of the Copper World Classic, no driver has ever scored a double, won more than one of the 4 titles available. Not a Bettenhausen, not a Foyt, not a Gordon, not a Johnny Parsons. But today, several drivers have that opportunity. Tony Stewart and Davey Hamilton among them. And Dave Reef, looks like we got a problem here for number 9, John McLaughlin.
Exactly, Steve. Not the way you want to start your 1998 racing season. John McLaughlin been struggling all weekend. Wasn't even able to take a time trial lap. Was scheduled to start 25th here today. He is obviously out. Let's go down now to the super modified grid. Catch up with some of the front runners with Bobby Gerald.
On the super modified pole for the second time in the last 3 years is California's Troy Regier. His super modified program is going to be closing up his shop at the end of this year to go Silver Crown racing. And so, Troy, is this the swan song for you here at the Copper World as far as the super modifieds are concerned?
Well, you know, this is it. I mean, this is probably do or die for us. If we keep the tires on this thing, I think we'll have a good show and we'll win this thing.
All right, good luck to you. Troy Regier on the pole in car number 10. On the outside of the front row, that's where you're going to find Tony Stewart. Tony is making his debut in super modified racing. He, of course, a veteran of the Indy 500. He races midgets and Silver Crown cars. He races sprint cars. He even races late models every once in a while. He does it all. Inside row number 2, the 05, former Oswego Classic winner, Pat Abold. And on the outside of row number 2, the 33W, that's Davey Hamilton. He's a 4-time Copper Classic winner. All of his wins coming in this super modified division. To the outside of row number 3, that's where you're going to find the defending champion, Rebel Jackson Jr. He's won this event 3 times. A scary thought for you, Steve and Dave. There's a 40-mile-per-hour difference between the pole speed and the car at the very last starting spot on the grid.
That's a little bit scary. That means they'll get into traffic very quickly. Also, keep your eyes on the 2U car. That is Kenny Hamilton, Davey's dad, who won the Coppers twice when they ran sprint cars back in the 80s. He's starting 10th in row number 5.
1 row back in the 6th row. Starting 12th will be Scott Backman in the 5D car. He finished 3rd here the last 2 years, so this gentleman knows how to put the pedal down, so to speak.
You know, this is the closest thing you'll find in motorsports to no rules racing. You can lay the engines over on their side, you can offset them, you can bolt wings almost anywhere you want. They're bullet fast, 153 miles an hour. In fact, the fastest of the 4 classes competing in the Copper World Classic.
Steve, also down the backstretch, these cars have so much horsepower in them with the big wing, they can reach speeds as fast as 185 to 190 down the backstretch.
An average about 153. Earlier, Bobby Gerald had a chance to get a close-up look.
Of all the cars we'll see this weekend at Phoenix, these are the wildest, the super modifieds. Now, Steve Evans once called them the outboard canoes of auto racing, and that's a pretty good term, Evans, because these things are tricky. Look at them. Big, huge wings, tremendous amount of offset, and the engine, it hangs off the left side of the car, which of course adds the left side weight to get them through the corners at hyper speed. The drivers of these cars, lots of big names. Tom Snevo, former Indy 500 winner, got his start here, and Davey Hamilton and his legendary father Kenny are big names in super modified racing. The speeds, well, they will approach on average 150 miles per hour. They look great, they've got lots of chrome, and the fans love them.
Well, Bobby, I'm going to rename them. I think they look like a bunch of praying mantis as they take their warm-up laps here behind the pace car. 25 cars, 25 laps.
And Troy Regier finished 3rd here the last 2 years. We'll start on the pole. Tony Stewart next to him.
You may not recognize a lot of the names as we go through the grid, but people all over the country do, especially a guy like Hamilton, because they come from different racing associations up in the Northwest, from Washington State, from Utah, from really all over the country, even the East Coast. There, I'm rooting for number 37, Evans.
37, he's your man? I can't figure out why that would be. As we make our way back through rows 11 and 12, that's where we find the Wiley veteran, Wally Pankratz out of Orange, California. John McLaughlin, as we mentioned just a minute ago, unable to make the start here today.
And let's hope that cooler heads prevail on the start of this race, because these are open wheel cars. If you get the wheels tangled up, only bad things can happen.
Into turn number 3 under the big Goodyear bridge. Be looking at a green flag. Look at how fast these cars accelerate on the start, Steve.
Unbelievable. Tony Stewart, the 1T car, takes the lead from outside the front row.
Unbelievable. A maiden voyage, and already he's tearing them up, leading the race. Troy Regier right now sitting in the number 2 spot with Davey Hamilton, a 4-time winner, here in 3rd.
And let's remember, Stewart, if he wins this, will be the first driver to ever win twice during the Copper World competition. He's already got the midget title.
And he's still got 1 to go. He's going to race in a Silver Crown portion just a little bit later in the show here.
They are going to get into traffic so quickly because, as Bobby Gerald pointed out, there's a huge differential in speed from the front to the back.
And don't be confused by that little white stuff floating in the air. That's just the grease sweep that's up on the top portions of the racetrack. No problems for any of these cars so far.
What a versatile driver Tony Stewart is. A few years back, he won 3 USAC crowns in the same season, the sprint cars, the midgets, and Silver Crown. He's a defending IRL champion. He's already won a race, their opener in Orlando not long ago. I mean, the guy is truly a huge talent.
And he's already into lap traffic. That speed difference you were talking about, 153 for the fastest of the cars, the 23rd, all the way down to 113 mile per hour.
Well, it certainly is a class of racing that allows the builders to execute just about anything they can think of. Take a look at these machines. Talk about offset of the chassis and the motor. You can probably flat-foot it all the way around this course if you've got the guts. And remember, this is a tricky racetrack. The radiuses are not constant in the corners. There's a kink in the back. It's kind of a D-shaped oval. The fastest in the world on a 1 mile distance.
You can call them praying mantises or whatever you want to. I think they're so radical looking of a race car that race fans, you just can't help but watch what goes on here to see that motor hanging off the left side like that. Whoa.
Well, that motor blew up. That is Pat Abel, the 05 car. Pat's got it up against the wall, keeping the oil out of the racing groove anyway, and there's bound to be some of it. Let's have another look here.
Yeah, you see as Pat Abel enters turn 2, already a lot of smoke coming out. You see all the oil going down on the racetrack. A lot of drivers behind him did a good job of avoiding that accident. Abel, likewise, a good job of accident avoidance, I guess you could say.
And that will bring out a yellow flag. The caution laps do not count here today. They will run 25 under green. Well, Tony Stewart in the early going is leading the Super Modified competition. Can he make it too? We'll find out. We're back under green at Phoenix International Raceway, the 21st running of the Copper World Classic, and these are the outrageous Super Modified cars.
Tony Stewart continuing to be the race leader, but Troy Regier has pulled to the tail now, challenging Stewart for the lead.
And something I see on several of these cars this year, Dave, is that they built the cage much like a top fuel dragster or a funny car, as opposed to the widespread bars. I think that is really a lot better. You'll notice a couple of those as we continue with this 20-lap affair, 25-lap affair.
The pink car, Kenny Hamilton, that's Davey Hamilton's father, moving up through the field nicely, coming across the start-finish line here at PIR.
Davey Hamilton, the 33W car, who's won this race so many times, is falling back. In fact, he's now in 8th.
So something obviously wrong with the 33W car. As Troy Regier now pulls again to the tail of Tony Stewart.
And they're also encountering some traffic here.
That's him, that's Stewart, the leader, just passing the lap car. Regier right behind him in that 111 car.
Ooh, Regier's car looked just a little bit loose there. How can you be loose with all these weights and all this offset?
Davey Hamilton, we've got word from downstairs, unfortunately had to retire from this race, so his day is done. Davey Hamilton out of the race here at the Copper World Classic.
Well, I tell you, Troy Regier is getting impatient here. He'd like to put that IRL champion back in 2nd place.
He had a good starting spot here a year ago. Rebel Jackson was able to go on for the win, so Regier awful hungry for a Copper Classic win. I'll tell you what, though, I'd hate to be the guy to pass Tony Stewart.
Look at this. Troy slingshot Stewart coming down the front straightaway and leads him as they go into the kink on the backside of the course. Unbelievable.
And look at the lead he's opening up. Earlier, Davey Hamilton, we mentioned unregrettably had to go to the pits. Bobby Gerald is down there to find out what went wrong.
Well, Davey, what put you out of the Super Modified action?
Well, we actually broke a drive line. The car, it was really good, actually. Just kind of paced myself early in the race, and the car really felt good. I thought I had some of those guys, but it started shaking, and eventually broke a drive shaft. So it's one of those days.
Well, you'll see Davey Hamilton at the Indianapolis 500 this year. You can bet on that. So still up front, number 10, Troy Regier, as the field goes by.
And This is Regier coming across the start-finish line right now. He has already opened up a pretty sizable advantage over Tony Stewart, but look at the top two cars. They've ran away. Here comes Rebel Jackson, the 24 machine, the 2U. Kenny Hamilton. The field is really starting to stretch out here at Phoenix.
You know, Tony Stewart is here really to have fun. He told us that all weekend long. I don't know how hard he will push the super modified car, considering his lack of experience in them, as dangerous as they are. I mean, he's got a career at Indianapolis and even in NASCAR to think about.
What an incredible margin as you see the 8th place car go by, as Troy Regier has really opened it up. This time by, big white flag in hand. Regier going to kill him. Looks like he's going to get that Copper World win.
Troy Regier in what may be his last ever super modified race, trying to beat a man who's in his first ever, Tony Stewart.
Well, Steve, if I was Troy Regier, though, I might be thinking about putting that super modified retirement on the back burner. A dominating performance off of turn 4 from pole position, back to second temporarily, but back in front. Troy Regier picks up the super modified win here at the Copper Classics.
And Tony Stewart takes second, Rebel Jackson third. Well, that 25 laps went by in a hurry, didn't it?
Oh, it went by very fast. 150 mile per hour. I suppose it's bound to.
And a safe, thank you, super modified race. One year there were so many crashes, they just stopped the race in the middle and said, go home. Everybody just go home. Here's a top 10 led by Troy Regier.
Jimmy Burns finishing in the 5th spot. A good run for him.
Kenny Hamilton, it'd like to have been up a little further than that. But nevertheless, the two-time winner put in a nice appearance here today. And somewhere in that crush of media, the dueling Ikigami TV cameras, is Bob Gerald. Hopefully he'll get a word with the young Californian.
The third time's a charm for Troy Regier on the pole in 96. Started second last year on the pole this year, and you did it, man. Congratulations.
Oh, I tell you what, I got a little loose on that second restart, and I just bided some time and got Tony there, and the car was set up perfect. And Biswell Motorsports team, they really deserve this one. Thanks.
Tell me about the pass of Tony Stewart going into one.
Well, I could see his car was getting a little loose coming off the corners, and he was kind of drifting up. And I made a good run coming out, and I just made a move down the straightaway, and it stuck.
Well, now you got to come back to defend the championship, right?
Well, you never know. We'll see what happens.
All right, Troy Regier, a happy winner. First-time winner of the Copper World Classic.
Dave Reef, he must have been listening to you on that last lap. You know, all of a sudden the door is not fully closed on super modified racing.
Well, I'd certainly consider coming back and defending that championship, as you see Richard Castor finishing the 11th spot. Abold's day ends number 15.
And as we look at the rest of the runners from the super modifieds, remember that Tony Stewart will also be in the upcoming Silver Crown race. He's got one more shot at that double, that historic double. But he will start way back in the field, and it could be a tough test for the young man.
Chance to sit down, grab a nice cold drink before back into the cockpit. You can call it his office. Silver Crown race coming up next.